So I'm out here in About You in Long Island City. Two wonderful men. You guys want to introduce yourselves, your names?
Coach George, I'm the co-founder with Coach Alex About You.
Coach Alex, co-founder with George. Uh, about you.
I had your number for a while, and I spoke to you about Zach, and when we started to talk, it kind of flew into a 40-minute conversation at work, and I was like, damn, I shouldn't be on the phone. I'm gonna get in trouble.
Yeah.
So I was like, yo, we gonna have an easy chance to talk.
Yeah.
But I want to get like kind of right into a subject that you told me that really affected the way now I'm thinking about with my son in youth sports is the extended long season now of youth football. Like how you have your season and then you have these all-star games and then people going for tournaments and the CTE about it. So I wanted like, kind of let us know
Yes.
like what's your opinion on that?
I mean, it's something that we've observed. Oftentimes competitive athletics for adults can kind of blind what's the proper thing to do, right? So, we, pre-COVID, the issue with football and sports in America in general, especially contact, was this whole CTE thing, um, which is very real and impacts a ton of NFL players, right? The data is in your face. Um, so from that point, we go through COVID, and in an effort to kind of catch up, coaches kind of forgot, hey, listen, catching up in football means more reps,
Mm-hmm.
and more reps in football means the
More
banging
hitting.
of the brain. So I think it's something where presidents of organizations, leagues, AYF, Pop Warner, um,
Battle. A
Battle,
bunch of new ones coming
AAU.
out every year, man.
It's something where you have to realize, like, listen, some of these kids are playing 20, 30 games in a year, and that's you're talking about like massive amounts of damage to the young developing brain.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just kind of weird how folks have kind of forgot about that. But you want to say something on that, Drew?
Yeah, what I find weird is what Coach Alex was saying is that pre-COVID they almost banned tackle football in New York State
Yeah, we almost
for
lost them.
14 and under, and now we're going to 30 game schedules, and then you add all stars and other stuff. I know whether it be New York City or the suburbs. In the suburbs, they're having a problem with kids playing middle school football and also playing on their youth team. Imagine playing two football games in a week. It just doesn't make sense. It's a contact sport. You wouldn't have two boxing matches in a week. So
No.
why are we risking kids getting hurt or CTE and not playing football again? So I mean, our push is more towards playing multiple sports, but more isn't more. Sometimes it's just more.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And if you look at college they don't even hit in practice. NFL they don't hit in practice. If the NFL thought that they could get away with it, they would play a 35 game schedule because of money.
Yeah, yeah.
They know that they would get sued. So
Mm.
why are we doing with youth kids? It makes no sense. In the long run, it's also football. I tell this people all the time. There's two sides of football. There's a person that loves football practice. I played football for 14 years. As you got to college, defensive back practices, but I didn't. I was a running back in high school. I didn't like football practice. The contact.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
gonna drive kids out of football. And the beauty of football, it's the only sport in high school where you don't get cut. So it gives you time to develop. When
Yeah.
you're going to have kids quit too soon because of injuries, we're going to lose what's great about football is that selling to kids that if you work hard and stick it through, you have an opportunity. If you play baseball or basketball, you can get cut your freshman year, it's over.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't know 70% of kids' sports end in eighth grade. And that's the thing. We want kids long term to use sports to help them do well
That's
in
a big
high
amount
school.
of
Yeah,
kids,
life
man.
goes by the kids. But if we're playing 35 games in a youth season between all stars and two seasons, that's for the adults, not for the kids.
I
Yeah, I mean, you know
I
it's wrong.
I call myself having that feeling last season because we finished the season. Then all of a sudden, I get phone calls. Yo, we're doing an AU All Star team, and then we're doing a D1 All Star team. And I'm like, not knowing. I'm like, okay, mate. I guess this is more exposure for Zach. So I'll do it. Oh, yeah, this is 1100. This is 800. This is now I'm looking at bank account. I still got to go out with my wife. Still got
Yeah.
mortgage to pay, and I'm like,
Yeah.
is this really benefiting Zach? And then when you told me CTE, I hadn't even thought about it since the Will Smith movie.
Yeah, and so I'm gonna give what George gave as an example. So there's two type of athletes. There's the athlete that doesn't like practice, and then there's the athlete that loves practice. I was kind of that. This practice for me was an escape. It allowed me to, you're playing.
Yeah, yeah.
But I in our during our time, football was, you encourage the big hit, right? And so I was kind of like an outside linebacker safety type. So hitting is, that was a premium, and without a doubt, I was hiding my head injuries. So I want to play. I'm not telling coach I'm dinged up. I'm going to play Saturday. And so you have to kind of dial back those kids, the competitive kid, the competitive parent,
Yeah.
the parent that wants to do more, and you might think that more is better, but it's not.
No,
It's not. I think that was perfect what George said. More is not better. It's just more. And in this example, my fear is this, that we see these young people 21, 22, and they're having all of these sort of health issues, and we're going to sit back and say, hey, we made all of this noise. New York State actually almost put into place banning tackle football, at least till high school. And then we just, after COVID, we're playing 30 game seasons and all-star games that are going all the way until January. So it's something that as adults, we got to sit back and go, hey man, like somebody's got to step up and say, hey, maybe we need to readjust and assess what we're doing.
Reevaluate what we're doing. Yeah, man.
And I think that if you want to develop a kid, you want to become an elite in anything, you have to have fundamentals. So we're kind of brushing over what makes you successful as fundamentals. But I think like when you mentioned money, my nephew's a really good basketball player. He does basketball year round. My brother pays probably about $3,000 a year to be on an AAU team. Now that worked for him. He made varsity as a freshman, but it's not a contact sport. So what you're seeing in football is the proliferation of making money off of families in football. And this all started not actually with the additional tackle football, it was 7-on-7. So 7-on-7 blew up. It was a high school thing, but then it blew up to individual private teams probably 5, 6, 7 years ago. And that became a way to make money. I'm not saying good, bad, or indifference, but it costs money. So now you can make money off of football if you do extra stuff. We got to think to ourselves, is that money being put in a direction that's best for long-term development of a kid?
On that one, like you're talking about, because what Alex told me was, so kid, you have a kid like my son that plays quarterback. Got the whole season, got training, then 7-on-7, then a flag. What about his rotor cuff?
Yeah.
At 9, 10 years old, throwing the ball more than 100 times a day, it can't be good.
They wouldn't let that in baseball. You're on a pitch count. So I think we could be wrong, but we're in a different model. Like we've always, when I met Alex at Cardinal Hayes, I was always a fundamentals guy. And that was what I loved about coaching. It wasn't that I'm going to out-coach you, it's that my players are going to be better at their position than your guys. And they're going to win the game. Fundamentals last a lifetime. If you're just doing scheme or football games, it's not going to prepare the kid for the next level. So whatever we do, whether it's sports, academics, or a job, we're preparing kids for 25. And you're not preparing a kid for college by playing 35 games as a youth.
When can you study?
You study, or when you can get better in other sports. Like it's I don't know. It's a thing that I've made mistakes through this. I thought, football was more maybe fundamentals, but playing other sports, doing other things. Also remember, he's just a kid.
Yeah.
You can have a little fun too. It can't become a job, So like, we just got to balance things out. Everyone's got to sit together and say, how are we going to make New York City sports better so all kids will have opportunities? Just playing more and jumping around to all these different tournaments, it's not a need. New York City has football players that are good enough to play in the NFL.
Yeah.
We have more kids than other places. It's just a matter of not getting caught up in the quick win.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. An all-star game is 9 is not going to get you a college scholarship.
He's going to put you $1,100 in the bank.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, one of the things you're talking about is specialization. So early specialization is a problem, right? quarterbacks always kind of get it the most in football, where you got guys going to quarterback coaches or going to quarterback clinics, and you're not taking into account the development of a young person's body. So you're introducing things that are appropriate for guys our age. You're trying to implement that on a young body, and what you're going to lead to is burnout. You're going to lead to stress fractures, things that you would see in older adults, right? So like in baseball, Tommy John surgery, we started seeing kids in America.
What is it, before you move on, what is the Tommy John surgery?
So
People that don't
essentially, it's a reconstruction of the elbow. And once you get it, it changes your life forever, right? So this is why I'm saying, like, folks need to dial back. Like, you're specializing, your child can go through that process and it's going to change their life. Forget sports. That impacts your life just every day, picking up things. And as you get older, arthritis develop. Yeah, it's something that we're not looking at. And you know, it's leading to this rise in injuries, right? We're seeing injuries of 11-year-olds that really belong on 18-year-old bodies or 21-year-old bodies.
Torn ACLs at 11.
ACLs
I've
at
never
11.
heard of that when I was a kid.
It's not only football. Like my cousin, her daughters are in high school. Like, you're seeing it with concussions with soccer. So I asked her, I go, how many games does your daughter play? And she's like, she can play up to 40 or 50 games in a year. You're going to get a head concussion hitting a soccer ball with your head. So the more you play, the more apt you can get hurt. So competition. So it's not competition. You don't need to be playing 50 games in a year of something. Like, you should be playing multiple sports. Like we grew up playing 3 sports. I was shocked when I came to Cardinal Hayes how some kids weren't even good basketball players. They couldn't throw a baseball. They didn't learn certain movements, not because they weren't great athletes. They were better athletes than I was. They just didn't play multiple sports.
Yeah.
I was showing kids the other day I could juggle. They were like shocked. I go, it's just practice. You know, so getting kids to do all different kind of movements in different sports makes them better in the one sport they want to be good at. Especially football. Football, if you play baseball, you play basketball, you play wrestle. If you wrestle, you will become a better football player.
Yeah.
If you just do football all the time, you can do movement. Like, we do movement stuff. It doesn't matter what position you play. In football, you got to be able to step, replace, crossover, run. You got to be able to transition.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone's so caught up in the actual football itself. That's not what's going to make you great.
Feels like social media brings a lot of this anxiety to parents. Like, damn, look at this 9-year-old kid. He's throwing it 80 yards. Oh, come on, little man, let's go work.
Well, there's nothing wrong with working hard. It's just, but it's how you work too. And social media, only social media is the downfall of society. It's all like parents getting caught up in allowing us getting caught up in it. There's the recruiting that gets kids all messed up too. Is that they see all these offers. Say they see, I'll give an example. Say they see 12,000 offers. You saw all 12,000 offers on social media. They think those are 12,000 different kids. It's 400 kids getting 30 offers. It's all the 4-stars getting the offers. So kids see that, they inundate it. Like, recently, you have a big push with the transfer portal. And that was actually one of the guys that we know that was a Harlem Jet, Johnny Cornelius. He got 30 offers. So everybody's thinking, oh, it's easy to go in the transfer portal and get an offer. No, Johnny was first team all-conference and an all-American, ranked number 2 by Pro Football Focus.
Yeah.
So it's actually taking the information and explaining it to people about what it really means. And there is no quick one. If you just stay the course and work hard, you will get an opportunity. And you have good grades. The level is only determined by, believe it or not, size and speed. If you're not a certain height, you're not a certain speed, football, you're not going to get that look. But if you have very good grades and you work hard, you'll get a lot of opportunities within the level that you're supposed to be at.
To the magic word.
Yeah.
Good grades.
Grades are everything.
the missing piece that I went a whole season of youth football, not once did someone tell me, oh, he got a 95 yesterday in a report card. Like, parents, we didn't talk about report cards not once. And when we was in Delaware, when we went on a trip, there was a comic. My son's reading the comic. I saw 2 other kids couldn't even read. So, like, we can't forget about the education and being here at About You. I really want you guys right now to tell the people how important are the grades. Does it really matter?
Oh man, it is 100%. it's 100% what we stand for, but remove us from the equation, it's 100% of what's going to give you your real opportunity, right? Let's say you even make it, right? The statistics of pro athletes retiring and flat broke or not being able to get into another field because they may have never graduated, took some time to go early to the NFL. So
No education.
so now you're in a deficit. Academics is what's going to separate you. It's gonna give you information. It's going to give you knowledge, which is going to allow you to dictate your opportunities. If you have no academics, then I hate to say it, but it then turns into a meat market, right? It really does become, well, this is all about sports. So, we all get slower, we all get put on a little more weight. Like that's just the reality of the human body. Um, to not go into it understanding that academics are gonna lead you through any sort of issues. Unfortunately, it's something that has been perpetuated, man, for the last 30, 40 years in sports, right? Because it's oftentimes what happens, and you're seeing this with social media, is that it's not only the kid getting recruited, the parents are getting recruited. So they're romanticizing the parents, and the parents themselves are like, oh, wow, I'm going to Texas. I'm playing in a 10-year-old all-star game, but it's in Texas. And
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
what does that mean? That doesn't mean anything.
I guess
Especially
Jimmy
if you're
don't know
missing,
where Arlington, Texas is.
especially if you're
Yeah,
missing school to go to.
missing
Woo!
school and not realizing, listen, at the end of the day, you still have to have requirements to be a eligible athlete. So you need the grades because the governing body, the NCAA, says, hey, here are the minimums. You need to have this on SAT, ACT, you need this as a GPA. You need to have these many courses, right? You can't go to high school and think you're going to take shop for 4 years. You know what I mean? Like that's not going to count,
Yeah.
right? But parents and players don't know that. So oftentimes, now you're ineligible, not because you don't have the ability, it's you don't have the grades. And so there's too many kids in America. Oh, you don't have the grades. I'm gonna go right to New Jersey and Connecticut and get the same kid.
So what we do, like this, and so I always pushed academics. Where I grew up, it was very academic related. I grew up in Rockland County. I went to Clarkstown North, and I push academics all the time. Kids change if you talk about it, and people were thinking I was always about academics and not about the sport. The reality is this: if I'm a football coach, if I want an elite football player, I want a very disciplined person.
Mm-hmm.
In a school week, you're in class for 35 hours. You're in practice for maybe 15. So 70% of the time you're in class. If you're not disciplined in class and doing your work, you're the one joking around, you are not going to be disciplined on the field. You're not going to be disciplined to be watching film. So it's just about of reinforcing being disciplined in life. And the best way to be disciplined in life is to do things that you don't like doing.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
if adults or parents or anybody around a kid is not pushing to be disciplined in the other stuff, it will affect them on the field. I'll give a really good example. I was fortunate to go to Ohio State this year because we have one of our members is top defensive back, extremely smart kid. They got graded on every day. Every day, Ohio State players get graded on their academics, their recovery, their training, mental health, and football. And the guy said this: never has he had someone going down in the 4 areas and be going up in football in the 5th area. They were so convinced and important it was. They send your grades every week to your parents.
They're doing that in college right now?
At Ohio State, they do it every week. And if you want to see what's going to provide the best football player out there, look at the most elite institutions. They have millions of dollars of budgets of figuring out how do I get the most out of you? Because you're a product, you're an appreciable asset. I got to make sure within 4 years you produce for me. If you don't, I'm going to lose my job.
It's a sad thing too.
Yeah,
It's a
so
business.
it is, but it's a business, but they are in the business of development. So they know that if you're not developing in the classroom, so how do they do it in college? They give you a tutor. They make sure someone is sitting with you that you do your work. So as a parent or a coach, if you don't advise the kid to be good in school, the sport's not going to follow. Like when we were at Hayes, when I first got there, maybe our average was like a 75, like 800 on the SAT. By the time we left, it was closer to an 1185, and our kids went from Division III to Division II to any school in the country was recruiting them.
And that's because you just were just pushing.
Yeah, it's pushing academics and training. It's like it's holistic development. So
Did you have conversations with like the parents? Like, would you call them personally and be like, "Yo,
we had
listen, they got to
meetings.
do this"?
It's quick. Like if the adults, like when you said you didn't talk about, I used to get in trouble sometimes because during stretching, I'd be talking to kids about their PSAT score or their grades. But if you're constantly talking about as an adult, kids just want to do what's right.
Mhm.
So whatever we talk about, they're going to do. So if you mention grades, then kids were starting to come to us and tell us their grades, and they do it now without even asking because they know it's important to you.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of us being the example.
Yeah.
And then the opportunities for endless. I'm a believer that New York City kids have much more grit
Yeah.
than other kids. So if a New York City kid is given the resources and the right environment, they're going to outperform kids in the rest of the country.
We
And
deal with
just
a
gotta
lot of
keep
other
on
stuff
doing
that other cities don't deal with.
it. No,
On every
not
day.
at all.
Taking the train is by far right now the most dangerous thing right now.
Oh,
Dangerous,
yeah,
and also
absolutely.
just the fact that there are kids that will commute almost 3 hours a day just to go to school.
Mhm.
I lived 1 mile from my high school and I got picked up.
Yeah.
If I can't be successful, then I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
You know, and now the kids going through all this, and if you give them the right guidance, they're going to outperform the rest of kids in New York, the rest of kids in the U.S. That's what we got to push: full development and give kids the discipline. If we're not talking about being disciplined in class, how do you expect a kid that goots around for 8 hours in class to go to the field and then focus on the field? You'll notice the kid that focuses the most when you coach is usually the better student.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they
Alex,
used
you
to be
got
disciplined.
you guys got both got kids right
I don't
now?
have kids.
I have no
do.
kids.
Yeah.
You got
Yeah, I have
how old are
two.
your kids?
My son is 12. My daughter's 10.
Okay, so they're right now in like
Yeah,
kind of like the prime years.
they're in those prime years. Yep.
What advice do you have for parents like me, where we got same age kids and we're
Mhm.
trying to push them into good schools?
Mhm.
You know, the Hayes, the Steps, the Ionas, you know, these big schools. What would be good advice for us?
I mean, the first thing is reverse engineer the process, right? If you kind of have a general idea of what your kid wants to get into down the road, and you could do that based on how they are academically, right? You can figure out, hey, are they more math? Right? Do they have an inclination to lean towards math or science or the arts? So kind of start from that point because really you're making this decision to develop that,
Yeah.
right? So now figure out what schools kind of nurture that process. So oftentimes even at the high school level, parents make just a sport decision, right? Pick the school. Look for what the average SAT at that school is,
Yeah.
right? Look at where the kids are graduating.
Where do you get this information though?
It's all public, so it's all available on every school's website,
So you
right?
just
So
gotta just look up the like
yeah,
cardinalhayes.com and they'll show their stats.
so they have search engines for schools. They have it for public, private, parochial, and you can look up the school's rating, and it'll let you know what's going on with the student body, down to issues with violence in the school, down to how much resources the school has. Um, you need to make sure you see that information before you get into a selection process.
Yeah.
And really speak to the parents who have attended these schools and, hey, what was your experience, right? And try to judge it away from sport. What was this kid's experience in the class?
Yeah.
Right. So there's this idea when you graduate, are you college ready? Most of New York City kids are not college ready, right? So you might have gone to school for 4 years, you're going to get a diploma, but you're going to get to college and it's going to be massively difficult
Yeah,
for
you'd
you
be like,
because
"Damn."
you can't handle it, right? And so whose fault is that, right? So it's almost like you're making this high school really is a 40-year decision. Where your son or daughter goes, you really have to make sure that they have all of those things in place. The sport, if you have God-given ability, the sport thing is going to work itself out.
Mhm.
And with social media, I know we talk about some of the issues with social media, but they're good, and there's a ton of good in social media, right? We've
Yeah.
never been this connected ever, right? Like
We're here right now because of social media.
exactly, right? So leverage the good things with social media. Don't live in social media, but that's what's gonna lead you to making the best decision. It's not a sport decision, you know.
The only thing I would add, and I think high schools and colleges need to do a better job of this, a high school or college will tell you what their graduation rate is. It really should be where you're supposed to end up. So a college should tell you when you're going to a college and you're looking at a football program in school, what is your job placement rate? I would find out from the high school that you're sending your kid to, how many of their kids graduate college when they go on. Because once again, like, we've worked with a lot of kids, we've coached, and the correlation of a kid that struggled in high school to not graduating college is very high. It's extremely high. And what is the point of all this? Like I said, I'm not a parent, but I worked with thousands of kids, and I care about where they end up.
Yeah,
If they're happy in life. And
so you got a lot of kids.
yeah,
You got a lot of kids. You're a part-time dad.
yeah.
Part-time dad.
Like I said, I've been fortunate to work with so many great kids. I've learned a lot from them. But what I have learned, what kids have here, is the kid with that insane work ethic. They're unstoppable. If you play a sport in college and you do even a 3-0, you're going to be usually successful. Now, if you come into college not prepared, you're going to be out of college very quickly, very quickly. So that's something you need to look at. Are the schools, what's the graduation rate? Are they teaching the soft skills in high school?
What's a soft skill?
Time management, organization, how to write. Probably writing is the hardest. I struggle with writing.
For kids like our kids' age, that they should be learning on their own.
Yeah, writing. Are you learning PowerPoint, Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel? All those things. If you're not learning, if they're not teaching that in high school, you're going to be behind. You know, when you get to college, if you don't know how to use Word, PowerPoint, or Excel, that's another hurdle. Are you comfortable with writing?
I don't know how to use it.
Yeah, so I mean, I used to work in finance. I learned it all when I was in finance. But a lot of kids don't learn it. A lot of kids work off their phone. You know, so it's the little things like that they don't talk about. But a good school will prepare you, or you'll be around kids that are using that. If you're not, when you get to college, writing a 20-page paper. When I got to college, it was, thank God my roommate was a good writer. He helped me out.
I was using that app in high school. What was it? What was the app that we used to get our papers from? Notes. Cliff Notes, and then I had to change a couple words.
So that's the name of the software that analyzes. So you have to have comfort, but also, like I tell kids, it's like I'm very strong in math. I was a business background. I'm very bad at writing. To this day, I get anxiety when I have to write long emails and stuff. If they can learn those skills now, you apply heartache later, a lot of stress later.
Sets, you know, so I didn't go to, you know, I didn't attend a powerhouse football high school program. I was a part of a program that, you know, found kids black and brown and tested well. And so I got into a sponsorship program, and I attended Cardinal Spelman. Like the 20-page paper, I was ready for that. I hated it in high school, but I appreciated it when I went to college. And I was like, you know what, I can, 20-page paper, I was doing this sophomore year. You know what I mean? And it's you know, if my parents kind of chose a school that was just purely football or sport, I would have had a tough time. And I still had a tough time, right? Just being from the city. But, you know, I didn't need to go to a powerhouse. I had height. You know, I had an older brother who went through the process, right? He played college ball, so I kind of understood the process already. For me, it was just go to the best academic school. They're gonna find you because you have a little bit of size and they're gonna find you. They're gonna find you, and they do.
I keep hearing that. They'll
find you. They, you know, as George said earlier, like these universities, they have massive amounts of money. So they're sending out scouts, they're sending out position coaches, they're gonna find you. And with Huddle and Twitter, having the ability to put your film online, there's no hiding. And even if you think you can hide, always remember, in a given league, if you go to Iona and they wanna find out what your true ability is, and they wanna find out what your true ability is, they'll just look at the Cardinal Hayes tape. If you think you're not going to put out your film, well, let's see how this kid did when they played Hayes or Stepanak, you know, or Christ the King. So you don't have to worry about that. If you focus on the academics, if anything goes wrong, you blow a knee out, you know, some kids burn out, don't want to play anymore. Like, if you made that academic first decision, you're good.
Yeah, and on top of that, with recruiting, like I said, if you want to see how things should be run in high school, look at the top colleges. Colleges on their application form or recruiter prospect form, they'll ask you who your trainer is because they want to know everyone in your circle that's going to be involved in the recruiting process. So listen, I haven't coached high school football in 5 years, and I talk to college coaches regularly. If you're around players,
They're
they
gonna
get
talk to you.
they get fined you. So for us, like, listen, your high school it helps and all that, but our best recruiting for our kids has been through our own members. For example, Corday Sidnor is at Purdue. He got his offer at Purdue through Sanusi, who was already there. So like that's how they're doing recruiting in any way. Like it helps who you play against, but if you let's not all get this twisted about recruiting. Recruiting is getting your information out there, and a good high school helps, but you can get recruited without it.
Yeah, you can, right?
Yes. Yes.
Listen, we were one of the first ones to use Twitter to get in 2015 to help kids get recruited, and it helped blow up New York City. It was just a matter of getting exposure. But like Alex was saying, it's the discipline and work ethic and academics combined with your athletics that's going to create your opportunities. Because our best guys they're recruiting, I give Sanusi as an example. Sanusi solely got recruited because he had a 1370 in the SAT and he could jump 40 inches. He had no 40.
1370. That's really
He had
good,
no
right?
he had no football film because he was just starting. But we were saying to schools, listen, this kid is a freak athlete and has freak work ethic and freak intelligence. And he bought into all that, and he did the 10,000 rep rule and all of them: training, field work, and academics. And his recruiting started with the Ivy League, and then it worked his way up. When his football matched his ability on film, then he got the Power Five schools. And then from there, they gave his brother the benefit of the doubt. Same thing. His brother got 1310 as a sophomore, 90 student, jumped 40 inches. So were they the only two brothers in Harlem that could get a 1300 and jump 40 inches? No, there's probably a lot of kids like that.
Yeah.
They're just not being cultivated the right way and told that this is the path you take.
Yeah.
And your opportunities will be there.
Where do you guys now see football or just sports in New York City in the next 5 years?
I mean, it's gonna explode. Sports.
Are we getting better in football?
We are. We absolutely are. It's been. I mean, we've been good for some time. It's like George said. It's just the exposure, right? In another 5 years, I could see Iona be the top, historical New Jersey program, right?
Yeah, that just happened this year. That was
right.
a
So
great game.
but St. Anthony's beat Iona, right? So that lets you know that everyone can compete. So it's going to explode with NIL and social media. There's just going to be more attention to the city. So it naturally is going to grow because of social media.
Also, NFL. I think our program will have probably 4 or 5 NFL players next 2 years.
That's awesome, man.
Oh yeah.
We're going to see more guys from New York City in the NFL.
You guys worked out with that kid that's in Pittsburgh, right?
Now,
he did he participated in our SAT program.
Yeah.
So George had him.
What's his name?
Israel.
He's Rail Splitter too, right? Rail Splitter too, right?
Yeah.
He's another example of a kid he did our SAT program for almost a year. He was all about academics. His parents were all about him working hard nonstop. You can tell from just meeting him in 2 minutes, this kid was a special kid.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Shook your hand, looked you in the eye, was so nice, and he just wanted to work hard.
Yeah.
He set goals for himself off the field, like in the classroom. And
the things that you said, like, a firm handshake, eye contact.
Yeah.
Those are things that are being taught in the house.
In class.
You remembered that.
Yeah,
so
in class, he didn't joke
you.
around at all. He was like this. Like the kid that can sit still in class the whole time and just work, that's another thing that you can look at and say, is that kid good?
Shout out to the Rail Splitters.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think we had a good year this year, but
Coach
Connell bounced back.
He runs a good program.
Yeah, man.
He runs a discipline program too. That school is very disciplined.
It's a problem though right now with E-Hall. E-Hall is just
talented,
beating the brakes off of people right now.
Just talented, man.
And you were saying
a lot of talent.
I was saying the youth sports are getting better. Yeah. We work with the Jets. The talent is there. My only concern is if we go off the rail as far as it's just a sport.
Yeah.
Because COVID, and I don't care if people try to brush it over, it set kids back years academically.
Yeah.
And what you're going to see, and I was saying it earlier, the NCAA is going to take the SAT away from part of the eligibility requirement. So they're going to be taking kids into college that are not college ready. To be college ready, you have to be at a minimum 9th grade reading level.
Wait, you're saying we're going to dead the SATs?
So in order to get into the SAT will be still around, but potentially the NCAA is going to say that part of the requirement is not just your GPA and SAT, it's just your GPA. Now then you go back to the 80s where people give kids grades. in some cases,
Yeah.
and get them into college. And if we know that you can't deny it, there was learning loss. Some kids in New York City were 3 years behind before COVID. You might have a kid going into college as an athlete with a fourth or fifth grade reading level. So if you get caught too much in the sport, like Alex says, the sport will use you.
Mm-hmm.
They will take you at the highest level at fourth or fifth grade, and you'll never. You can't function. I don't care how many tutors you have. You're not going to be able to function in college at fourth or fifth grade. So they're going to prop you up, and when you're done, you're not going to be able to get a job or a degree. And that's what the '80s was all about. So parents, and coaches, and all of us don't work together for what's best. It's big business.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not big business where I tell people get caught up. They'll sell to you that it's a business. You're an employee. You're not an employee. Because an employee, if you're really good, they do everything they can to retain you. They can't retain you in college. 4 years, you're out.
Yeah.
So to them, is can they turn you into an appreciable asset, and that's to make money.
And for like the people looking right now, they don't get paid. This is a completely non-profit organization, right?
So we get paid. We pay ourselves.
You pay yourselves.
Yeah, non-profit, but as far as the advice that we give for recruiting and all that stuff, that's all free. This is information. It's all out there. The question is,
but people do charge for this.
Yeah.
They do seminars. They do.
Yeah, they do
that.
charge for it because it is big business, and it is very helpful. Because here's the other thing that parents don't know. It doesn't matter if they're coming from a wealthy area or not. They don't understand the recruiting process. But here's what some people understand in the wealthy area better than in a community that doesn't know sometimes where academics can take you. They know it's nearly impossible to get into top schools now. Mm-hmm. You're competing with the whole globe. What's the easiest way to get into a top school? Sports. So people with money are investing a lot in their kid developing in sports because they know that's the only way to get in to a college. Mm-hmm. I tell people that story. In the show Full House, that lady got caught making up that her daughter was a row athlete because she wouldn't have gotten into USC without a rowing scholarship. So we just have to work together with it because there's a lot of factors right now.
That she's going to jail now, though.
Yeah, she's going to jail. Yeah.
That didn't work out too good for
her. No, it didn't work out too good. But people know, like, listen, you can go to UPenn with a 90 average and a 1300 if you're good in football. If you're a regular student, one of my friend's sons had a perfect score in the SAT, was number one in his class, and he didn't get in. And his dad went to the school. So it's not if you want to get to these top schools, sports is the way, but we've got to start young, working together because there was an impact academically of what happened the last few years.
Yeah.
And what we did is we created the Wild Wild West. And when you create that, then people come out to make money. This is the easiest time to make money off athletes I know in my lifetime that I've seen.
That's why me and Alex started talking, was because I'm finding myself, and another piece of advice to other parents, I'm finding myself wasting thousands of dollars on these quarterback gurus or these speed agility guys who promise me the world, and then all I have to do is a little more investigating. I'm like, damn, you didn't even play college ball. You claim to be a guru and just leaving us broke.
You know what's guru? Yeah. Just do the same thing every day for the next
6-7 years. Listen, training for the youth athlete is it's very basic, and as George has said over and over, it's based in the fundamentals, right? Push-ups or push-ups. That's what allows you to get to the bench, right? And then when you get good at that, you can do, advanced techniques, using bands, chains, Olympic lifting. But you need the fundamentals. And if you have folks who are kind of selling that there's this cutting edge, listen, exercise science is the same, right? Like it has not changed. So there aren't any new techniques, right? In fact, most parents can find all the information on how to develop their kids right online
on YouTube.
You know what I mean? Or just
what I'm doing. I'm a YouTube
coach
now.
YouTube is a valuable resource, so you can go on there and kind of figure out what's the best thing to do. But yeah, there's unfortunately, because of competition, it kind of causes adults to kind of muddy the waters, or they get caught up themselves. Our job here is to kind of navigate parents through that, right? We're telling you that it's not the about you method for training or the about you DB training SAT. No, we We learn from folks who are smarter than us. They go back and they say, guys, if you try these things out over time, you're going to see success in these kids. The earlier they start, I mean, you can almost guarantee at least success, not level, right? But at least some sort of, they're going to be successful. So that's what we focus on here, right? It's early intervention, consistency, exposing them to things that they will see eventually down the road, and helping them prepare for the transition of high school or middle school to high school to college. The city kid doesn't really go through that.
And like Alex said, it's very simple. Like one of the things that it's why we're called, and I tell people all the time, why we're called about you. It's about you, the kid. It's not about us, the adult. So we don't have an ego. But actually, why I learned, I was in finance before I became a teacher and a coach. I learned through the kids. I learned through everyone else. So it's about a learning environment. And say, for example, defensive back. I learned through my guys that are in college. They tell me what the latest stuff is, but we stay consistent with it. It's about, can you get a kid from point A to B, and like you said, be successful? And success isn't a level.
Mm-hmm.
And what we'll constantly do here is we'll bring in people from different industries and other people that will just tell them straight out the truth. Work ethic is the foundation, discipline. And then if you have a good work ethic and foundation and discipline, you won't get caught up on all this flash thing, because you'll know it's, can I do the same thing over and over again?
Yep, that's what being great is.
So, and what we are as a coach, like, is there a need for coaches and trainers? Yes, because that's that person that just says, hey, you're falling off, or maybe that rep wasn't good.
Yeah.
Someone standing there knows what they're looking at. So there is a need for that. But if someone's selling you 3 months, it's just like in Wall Street. I make the mistake all the time trying to buy a penny stock. It never works. It never works. There is no quick win. There's no shortcut. And if you can do 3 things we tell our kids. You can have discipline in all facets of life. Can you stick it out? Society is pushing people to quit too early now.
Quitting is easy now.
Yeah, quitting.
Divorce, quitting your job.
Your job.
Work from home.
There's always something better, And the third is surround yourself around people that are positive. That's like when J.J. Watt said, the 5 people you're around, it is true. If you're around negative people, they're going to be negative. Around people that don't work as hard, it's hard. It's not easy to wake up every day and do the same thing. It's not. But if you're around a group of people, and like I said, our resource, like Zion in there, if kids are around Zion regularly, they're going to be very successful.
Yeah.
Because he leads by example. So, I mean, we're not recreating the wheel. It's not hard. But can you, even as adults, like I've made mistakes throughout, but sometimes I get caught up in changing a little bit. And it really is just stay consistent.
Coach, is your door open like to any athlete in high school or also youth?
What separates our organization, we also work with the Harlem Jets. It's any youth is the longevity. We're with kids from 6, 7 years old through college. Like 2 of our employees are former guys that we coached.
Yeah.
So it's staying with someone and knowing that we're always here for you.
So what would be the age requirement to walk through the door? Like what would you expect for a kid to walk through the door? Like 10?
Yeah, essentially that fifth grade. Because at 5th grade there's a little bit more maturity in a young person where they can kind of handle a class or those sort of things. But we kind of start 5th grade, and then as George said, we go all the way to past post graduation in college, not high school, and it's open to everyone. It's not just we have our backgrounds in football. We were both football coaches, but we deal with every sport. We have lacrosse kids in here. We have basketball guys, track and field, female athletes, rugby.
Rugby, that's kind of
it's
crazy
just
sport, man.
But it's just
taking each other out.
Exactly. It's a rough sport, but it's exposing kids to a different outlet, and who knows where that takes you. But we kind of deal with that. In the summer, we offer a sort of bridge up program that kind of it's an academic camp. George and one of our directors, Tim, they kind of run a whole 5-6 hour day of just academics, right? And it's not just test prep. It's George going over fundamentals, teaching kids, the fundamentals of, reading, writing, math, understanding how to break those things down, and why teaching it earlier, it leads to greater success. So we're an open program. Um, Culturally, we want the young man and family that wants to work, right? So George and I, and it's, some folks, oh, you should try to find we're not a sports first organization. We want to look for the folks that realize that this is a long-term process.
Yeah.
We're never going to sugarcoat things. We're going to say it's just hard work. Yes, we've done it long enough where we have, successes, and social media amplifies that. But if you ask those kids and their families, like, Sanusi Kane, we've essentially raised Sanusi. He's like a son to us, right? So we've had that young man, 10 years old, 11 years old. That's a lot of years of him just putting in work,
Yeah, man.
grinding.
You can see the outcome now.
Yeah, and it's all him, right? Like what we do is we just try to provide structure. We do it in a long-term approach, and then we let their genetic God-given abilities. Let them take that, where
You have
it
to
takes them.
understand that as a coach. I knew from the first day I met Sanusi he was smarter than me. I just had experience on him. That's the same with teachers and coaches. We sometimes have a problem with, and you have it in the workforce too, that if somebody is better than something at you, there's nothing wrong with a child being smarter than you or a better athlete than you were at that time. The best part about our jobs is seeing the success stories, seeing kids happy, being proud of who they've become. That's what it's about. It's not about wins or losses or about even what level a kid goes. You see that they're happy that they've reached their goals. They're achieving their dreams. Like Sanusi would always say to us, he goes, it's already happened. His future hasn't caught up with me yet. And I was like, wow, man, are you sure you're not the adult in this relationship?
He's super confident. He already knows how his life is going to play out. And everything goes the right way.
And it's having those real conversations early on too. So a part of like what you can't measure about our program is those sort of one-to-ones, heart-to-hearts, where we, as Sanusi, he's not just playing football, but he's also representing the Harlem community.
Mm-hmm.
He's a first-generation kid. Family came there from Africa. Like, the reason why you're going to go to college is to get a degree.
Mm-hmm.
If the NFL comes calling, man, God bless you. But the reality is you're going to get a degree. You're going to get a high-paying job or something that allows you access to more resources. And then your job is to come back and reinvest in your community. That's how you change things.
The beauty of that relationship is that his parents set the foundation and they trust us.
Yeah.
Listen, you got to find a group of men and women that you trust with your kid. That's not the easiest thing.
No, not in the world like today.
Yeah, you got to find a trust.
I went to I took Zach to a FBU camp, and there was a recruiter there, and he did say like one thing that stuck with me, and you guys said it again. College is reality. The NFL is a dream. So as long as they can make it to the college, it can be done. It's not like hard. What's the percentage for NFL? 1%?
That's much less.
It's much lower than that, right?
6.5% of high school players play college. So like, I'll just tell you, if you want to talk about NFL, it's like 60% if you start to make a roster for SEC. Big 10, 50%. ACC, the others, 25%. You move down to the non-Power 5 FBS conferences, it's like 4%.
Oh,
and then you get down to 1AA, even if you're a starter, it's like 0.25%. So what they do on social media sometimes, like, and social media is great. Listen, social media has been huge for us, but they magnify a long shot and they make it think it's a reality all the time.
The norm.
The norm. It's no different than if you go to Stanford. I went to Albany. You go to Stanford, you're going to get opportunities for jobs I would never get at Albany. You're competing with all kids that are that level of academics. So don't think that the NFL is going to take a chance on somebody if you're going against competition that will never make it in the league. There is that rare athlete that maybe develops, like goes to the wrong level, but it's very rare. So NFL is like, it's in a case of a dream, it's almost like sometimes as close as to winning the lottery.
It is.
You know.
It totally
So, and
is.
if you go with that mindset that you're going to win the lottery, you're going to be broke.
Oh man,
I do scratch outs all the time. Don't worry.
I haven't hit one. I haven't hit it once yet, man.
Yeah.
You gotta be in it to win it.
Yeah,
Man.
you
So I
gotta
still
be
pay
in-
my little dollar quick
Yeah.
pick.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying, but in sports, you be in it to win. You have it, but you use sports like there's. I don't think people speak enough about the life skills you learn in sports.
Mm-hmm.
Society is pushing that everyone nowadays is different. Everyone is not it's a level playing field. The fact is, it's not. It's not equal. When you go to get a job, they're going to take who's going to make them money. And in sports, you learn that. Sports is the only thing you learn at a young age, that there's someone better than you. It's very quick. You pick it up. That person's better than you. Now, it's going to be, are you going to accept it or are you going to work hard? If you do, you're going to get opportunities. But like your son, no doubt with you, it starts with the parents. You're there with him. He's going to play college football. As long as he sticks it through and doesn't get caught up in the nonsense. Like I told Zion in there, we've told our top guys.
Yeah.
You have what it takes already. You live the right life. If you let success or adults change you, you're not going to be who you are. You're not going to be successful. Kids at a young age, a lot of them already have the right formula on their own. It's just a matter, can we keep them staying along that path?
Away from trouble.
Away from trouble, and they'll be fine.
That's the perfect quote just to end this.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys like real letting me pull up and talk, and I'm hoping that we get some other kids out here. I was thinking about maybe also trying to speak to some soccer players, some female athletes, because everyone has their different stories and stuff like that. So thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate it, man. Thank you.